Yeah, we're running a little bit late, but we
Sit.
have a quorum now, so I guess
I'll try minutes.
okay,
I'll
will you?
try.
So we get a transcript. I get a transcript from Duncan, like an AI transcript after the fact. So I can send that to you tomorrow if you want to look at it, so you can take your notes and then if you want to, look at the transcript and fill it out or whatever, it's a nice supplemental resource. So if you just take brief notes, then you might find you can pluck a few things out of the transcript to finish them out. So, okay. Well, better late than never. It's 6:26. We're gonna get started. The meeting's going. We're recording. We now have a quorum. We've got our timekeeper and our minutes taker. So first off, approval of the December 22nd minutes. I will note, I don't think it will be matter for this, but based on the way that voting works, if we make any motions tonight, you need to pass based on a majority of the entire committee, not the majority of the quorum. So we will need unanimity in any decisions that we make. Otherwise, things won't pass. So
Would it be beneficial if we held off on the minutes
that's fine. We can.
for a week when we have more people sitting here?
I don't know if it matters. We have enough
Okay.
people to approve them. If nobody
Fine.
has issues, then we can just,
Yep.
we can just go ahead with them. So I'll make a motion to approve the December 22nd minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Comments? No? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Nice. Okay, we got it.
Wow.
Excellent. All right, moving on.
Five, yeah.
So yeah, minutes approved. I don't have any additions or changes to the agenda. We're running a little bit late, so we might steal some time from the management plan stuff, but we'll see how it goes. So next up, we have trails updates. Dan, do you want to cover this? I know Ian was going to lead this, but I think you probably are the next best person to do it since you have a stable internet connection. I can share from my screen. I don't have anything interactive on my side or much of the context.
Yeah. I could go over, Ian reviewed the maps with us. So he was going to show it to you using the more interactive version, but if you want to put up the map that he sent you, the most up-to-date one, I could go over, what his intentions were.
Okay. Yep. I'm joining the meeting now, and I can share my screen. Simple class. Small, but it'll work. That one. We have this one. Let's try this again. Share. Step one. Share. Okay. A little delayed. There we go.
Okay. So that is the
Sorry.
Yep.
Let me do the other one. Do you want to do the other one first?
It doesn't matter which way you want either one. This is the other
Sorry.
one shows all the sensitive ecologically sensitive areas.
Yeah, let's do the sensitive area one first, and then we can talk about the trail one.
Okay. So this one shows the mapped sensitive areas, and then um, in the pink color are the buffers. So Ian was going to show, if you look over to the left where there's the layers, he was going to show you how you can unclick or click different layers, and so have like an interactive view of what this looks like. But I think he's got everything turned on here. So this would be like the maximum build out of all the layers showing. So starting with maybe I'll try to like talk you through it and just see if you have any questions.
Yep.
I think you're all pretty familiar with it, but starting with the aqua blue color that runs down the middle of the map, that's the wildlife corridor. And then you can see the buffer to either side of it. The little dashed blue lines are intermittent streams, and the solid blue lines are perennial streams, and then the dark blue is wetlands. And you can also see there's some vernal pools over to the east. I mean, the west, no, the east. And then the one up towards the top of the wildlife corridor, there's that vernal pool up there. In green, in the darker green, are the mapped hemlock stands. So there's the one that in the middle of the page that says it looks like it says 20 hemlock. That's the big known winter deer yard area. And then the other one that says 13 reserve hemlock. That's the one that came from Ethan Tapper, another mapped hemlock stand. The one thing that Ian does not have turned on here is where it says 11 protect forestry zone. That was a zone that Ethan mapped that was not identified as a sensitive area. It was an area that he wanted to preserve as a forest management area to I'm trying to remember if it was either because it was either recently logged or it hadn't been logged. And it was an area that he wanted to not do any more forest management activities in, but it's not shown on this map.
Okay, so that's not the reserve steep at the top. This is a different reserve you're talking about.
Okay, the white area at the top where it says reserve steep, that's a different reserve area. That shape file also came from Ethan. And that's where he says in his management plan, this area has steep, thin, sensitive soils, and they're very steep, and that no forest management activities. And he says recreational activity should avoid this area, although it would be possible to pass through it if it was absolutely necessary. But his recommendation was to avoid it.
Laptop, thank you.
And you can look at Ethan's forest management plan where he talks about the forest intensity management zones to get his exact words on what these areas are.
Yep. Okay.
So Dan, Sonia shared with us the number, oh, now I've forgotten what it was.
11 protect forestry zone. It's right there in the middle, right above 13.
Yeah.
Yep. Is that a wetland or where? what color would we be looking at?
It's not mapped. The
Okay,
the code, the words are there for some reason, but the shape file is not included on this map.
I got you.
Meaning,
If you look at Ethan's management intensity zone map that's on the website, you'll see there it's a big green area. But it's not shown on this map.
is that on the Info ACF site?
Yeah. No, it's on the town website for Andrews.
Oh, is it on like the main page or is it in a meeting somewhere?
It's on the main page.
Okay. Should I pull that up just so we know what we're looking at?
Yeah, sure. That one.
Forestry
No,
activities?
up above, management intensity zones.
Ah, got it. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, this one.
So the um the green just below the number 2 where there's the green color, that's the hemlock stand. And then to the west of that, that other green area is the one that is designated as number 11 protect forestry zone, but Ian didn't include it because it was an area that what did he say? It was not subject to harvesting in 2011 to 13. And Ethan thought it should be preserved in order to increase biodiversity and not log it since it was already not logged. We want to keep it that way.
Okay.
But it wasn't like a mapped sensitive area that we identified through the easement or other process.
So I guess, yeah, I don't know what we do with that because if it wasn't mapped, then we can't really put it on the map. I guess it's just sort of something that the committee will have to keep in mind. I mean, as far as I know, there aren't plans to develop trails in that specific spot, but it doesn't mean that won't happen in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an area that when we talked with Ian about it, if you look at the topo lines that are kind of behind that green space there,
Yep.
you can see it's that big flat area that's up there, kind of a plateau, and it's very wet. And I think that's probably why they didn't log in there. And it would also be difficult to build trails there because it's quite wet.
You're saying this is to the like one of the greens around one of the green spots, like in the big yellow section in the northern part?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the very top of the lefter or the leftmost green area, that is dry oak. But then yeah, I guess to the north of that, sort of in that orange area, kind of between the two green shapes, I guess I can point like here. This is definitely wet. There
Yeah.
was some logging there at some point though, because there are logging roads that go like up. They basically go up this way and then they go sort of around and then back down and in. And there's like kind of like a loop through here.
Yep.
But yeah, it doesn't seem like good terrain for trail development. And I think of all the places in the forest that we've talked about protecting, like this section here has been one of the ones that I don't think there's ever, except for the initial concept map, I don't think I've ever seen any proposed trails in that section. I think that's a good thing because that's where some of the most pristine dry oak is, and that's where the alder swamp is. And yeah, it's just wet, and it seems like a bad place to develop. But yeah, I don't know. It's like we can't really just fake draw stuff on the map. We would need to like actually, I think, delineate it somehow if we were going to include it.
Right. Well, that's why Ian left it off.
Got it. Well, maybe we can put a note or something somewhere. I'm not sure where that would go. Like as a supplemental resource with a map or uh I don't know. I'm not sure where that would go. Maybe in an appendix or something, just so that knowledge isn't lost to time. If we all move on and somebody proposes a trail, that there's at least a note saying, "Hey, there's this unmapped area in this zone that you should be aware of."
Yeah. The
And
other
then,
map that you may want to look at to just for understanding is if you go back to the town webpage and open up the Ethan's forest stand map.
Or
Second,
Stan Topo or this one.
that one. That one has the satellite view where you can see and it was taken in the winter, so you can see the trees. And
Oh yeah,
so,
you can see the logging trails too. So like this one's drawn in, right? But you
yeah,
can see this is one of the logging trails.
right.
And you can kind of see this is one too.
Yeah,
So this loop, it basically goes down, and then this is really swampy. And this I think is right where the alder swamp is. And then it loops back up and just connects. There's just like a little loop there.
yeah.
It's kind of
And
fun to
then,
visit, but it's really not suitable for traffic, if you ask me.
yeah. And if you zoom out a little bit,
Yeah,
you can
sorry.
see that um, the other green area just below the number 2, that's a lot more hemlock in there.
This one?
That's the one he mapped as a hemlock stand. And you can see the
Right.
hemlock on the aerial view under kind of underneath the green shape.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely see. It's even like looks like the hemlock goes beyond, unless it's pine. Like it looks like it goes beyond the green shape itself.
Yeah,
It's like here, this is our red pine, the
that's your
yellow.
red pine. Yeah,
And that, I mean, from above, the red pine looks almost exactly the same as the hemlock.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you want to go back to Ian's map, I'll see.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, you can see he mapped the yellow is the red pine, the orange are the dry oaks, the aqua blue are the wildlife corridors, and
Yep.
the other one that Ethan Tapper mapped is the aqua blue one off to the west.
Yes, this one.
Yeah. That came from Ethan Tapper and his mapping.
Yep.
And um and then Ian added the buffers around the wildlife corridor and the perennial streams, the smaller buffer around the intermittent streams, and um this doesn't include buffers around the dry oak stands. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that was the main question I had is because we know that we're trying to stay out of the dry oak and give it a 300-foot buffer. So I would want to see a 300-foot buffer on the dry oak. I also feel like it would be helpful, maybe in a different shade or something, to see also a buffer around the hemlock. I know that that's like a seasonal thing, and we're mostly trying to stay out of those zones and within 300 feet of them in the winter time. But it might also be helpful to show that on the map just for planning purposes, right? So not to say that you can't put a trail here, but so that people would know if you put a trail within 300 feet of a hemlock stand, you can expect that trail to be closed in the wintertime because because that's the plan, right? So those are the two comments I have about this is I would like, and also the looks like the red pine didn't get its buffer either.
Right.
Not that
Yep.
anyone's going to be building anything there because it's kind of buffered out by that wildlife corridor anyway, and it's super steep. But I guess those are the things that I would want to see updated on here. But aside from that, it looks very, very informative and well filled out. I really like it.
Could
Yeah.
the block buffer be the same pinkish color as the buffer, but be crosshatched so it looks a little different, perhaps.
Yeah, that's good feedback that maybe we could give to John Haddon if he's going to end up doing like the
Right.
final version of this.
Yeah, I think Ian's plan was to get feedback like you just had, make any final changes, and then bring it to John to like work his magic and make it look really nice.
Okay, great. Yeah, I like your idea. Right, to just make it the same pink color, and I guess if it's crosshatched, then it would be naturally a little bit lighter colored because you're
Right.
going to see like some white space or the opacity in between the hashes.
The other thing that's on this map that is those dashed green lines, which are existing logging roads, I believe.
Okay, yep. Yeah, so what's the
I
difference?
kind of like how they show up on the other map where you can almost kind of see them. But that's where John can like play around with the best way to visually present what's here.
Yeah.
But those were like the main existing logging roads, is my understanding.
Yeah, that looks right to me. I mean, based on my knowledge, I'm familiar with all the green lines on this map. Like I've walked all of those. I mean, technically there may be a few more but they've kind of melted away. So I don't know if they necessarily need to be on the map or not.
Yeah, Ian said these were like the main ones. And then the dark red line are the existing trails, and the dark black line is the access road
Got
and
it.
the road that kind of runs underneath the power line.
Great. Well, yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, aside from the notes on the adding buffers to the oak, pine, and the crosshatched buffer to the hemlock, I think this is great. Does anyone else have any comments on it?
Could we, under reserves, which is that white section in the north, put something, comma, per county forester?
Yeah, that's a good question because it is yeah, I don't know. Is that something that we should put if it's going to go on the buffer map? Does it mean that we should also put it in the trail development parameters, like as its own category? Because right now, I can see like the optics of this are kind of bad in that we have this special reserve zone that's literally blocking off like the
Right.
one section of forest that's between the sort of like the no-go zones for both the dry oak. And
Right.
so if I were a mountain biker that wanted to connect to Sip of Sunshine, I would be like, well, what gives? Like it looks like you just created your own little special
Right.
like zone to just block us off from connecting. And that's not really what that is. I think
Right.
it's good to have Ethan's notes, and I think that we should be well aware that if there's going to be any trail development, that it needs to be done extremely carefully because of the steepness of the
Right.
slopes, and it needs to be really thoughtful and intentional, and only if we like absolutely need to use that section. But as it currently stands, like, yeah, it's got to. All this other stuff is basically shows up in the trail development parameters,
Mm-hmm.
save for that white zone. So I feel like we probably do want to write it into into the special like areas, it
Right.
doesn't.
Maybe it's either in the key or up near that white section. It says see Forester's management plan.
Yeah, or we
Can I
just,
jump in?
yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, because they're actually, I know exactly what you're saying, but the thing is, he's got other reserve zones, but they're kind of covered up by our, sensitive area zones, let's call it that. But that's an area that I guess we've missed that up in the Northeast that isn't covered by others. Like one example is that green, the long green one west of the central corridor that we're calling Hemlock. That's a reserve zone. That's his shapefile for reserve zone, excuse me. And that could just as well be white as well. So I'm just trying to make the point that isn't the only one, but I do
Right.
think we should have something in there about in that group of parameters, right in there with dry oak and wetlands and everything. Forest reserve zones per the forestry management plan, separate document, not the section of our document, which
Right.
also ought to, sync with that. But and then explain what he's talking about, what his recommendations are for that zone. He doesn't talk about buffering those zones. He just talks about limiting recreation up there.
Yeah, I think that we could just do a 1 or 2 sentence summary in the trail development parameters, just like we have for all where we've listed all of our buffer distances for all the different zones. We can say,
Yep.
Steep, reserve zone, and then basically say, see map, and then the description would just be try to avoid, trail development here if at all possible due to steepness of terrain, we could come up with language to basically describe
Yeah.
that it's treated slightly differently, and that's why it's on the map. So I think that's probably the best way to
Yeah.
handle it.
But don't say
I think
steep
so.
because much of that is flat.
Well, that's a good point. You're right, because the top where that square is that juts out at the top, that is pretty flat.
Yeah.
So that actually starts
Yeah.
to go down.
I mean, his
Let's-
reserve zones are basically where we don't want to log. We want to let the forest develop naturally and, go for that old growth, that accelerating the old growth. And just kind of leave it alone is, I think he says something like minimize human interference, I think was the phrase he
Right.
said. And it's not tied to particular topography. It's just where he thinks we ought to just let the forest be.
Yep.
So yeah, as much as I want to, close this chapter on the recreation section, maybe that's something that those couple lines of language get written outside of normal committee time, and then it comes back and we talk about it for a couple minutes at our next meeting, and then we approve it and we
Right.
move on.
Yeah.
I guess it might also be nice, depending if the attendance at our next meeting is a little bit better, it might feel better to close the chapter on the recreation section with most of the committee here.
Mhm.
But that
I think
is,
so.
I think,
I mean,
yeah.
Ethan's, if you look at Ethan's forest management, if you look at Ethan's forest management plan, he says it's recommended that recreational trail development also honors these zones with the highest trail densities in zone 1, moderate in zone 2, and as few trails as possible in zone 3.
Yep. And he says if you're going to intrude on one, kind of treat it like the wildlife corridor or riparian zone, cut across it, just don't like parallel, minimize the impact. If necessary, and he has the words, if necessary. And that, I tell you, that gets us to a really key question. What is, quote, necessary? Do we really does the world really need to do that? You know what I mean? Is people going to die? I mean, that's an exaggeration, but what does necessary mean? It's an interesting philosophical point.
Yeah, agreed. In this case, yeah, I mean, this is a very zoomed in section of the Ethan map. The green is zone 3, and I think the red is zone 2, or maybe it's 1. But in any case, this is that white reserve zone that we see on the map, the other map. And so there it is. And then here's it zoomed up, and you can see the topography here. So I guess technically, if you were going to go through here, you would want to try to just connect right here
And that is the contemplated. Civ of Sunshine goes right to that, right there where you're,
Yeah, it
Right
does.
there.
It does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then the question would be,
how do you get it?
yeah, and that's a discussion for a later date. But yeah, I think that we basically summarize and write up Ethan's thoughts on this reserve zone and how like it's best avoided, but it's not necessarily mandated. And I think that discussion about like necessity is something that will need to be discussed after the management plan is complete and if people are proposing trails, right? Like I think that the point now is for us to come up with the language that we want in the management plan. And then once that is done, then we can, at a future date, we'll talk about potential trails. And so I don't want to let thoughts about what could be, a trail, sort of like cloud our discussion now, because that's happened in the past where people are getting really excited about lines on a map, and it was sort of causing some like confirmation bias about some of the discussions that were happening about the management plan and the development parameters. So I think that we just focus on the language and we talk about necessity later. But I think, we kind of
A
know what
good
we need to
point.
do. What's that, Brad?
I was just saying, I think that's an excellent point. And I apologize because the link that I'm on, I don't have the ability to raise my hand. So
Oh, that's fine. Just
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to totally agree. I think we can set that aside and let that discussion necessity come up later. Good.
yeah, I'll do that. I can do that separately. uh, steep reserve zone. Cool. So, well, I guess we can briefly look at the other map. I don't know if there's going to be as much to discuss, but we should at least take a look.
Yeah, this map just shows the existing trails.
Plus the
Plus the
plus
logging
the
roads in green and the wildlife corridor and streams,
Yep.
vernal pools.
Mhm.
and the topography, right? Because we talked about some of the
Yep.
stuff before. These are all the features that might be helpful to a user who's in the forest with a map and they want to know, okay, well, if I head this direction, what's going to happen? Is it going to get steep? Am I going to run into a body of water or something like that? So I think this looks good. I don't really have any comments.
Yep.
Cool. Well, should we move on to our next topic?
Have we skipped trails updates?
I think that's next. I don't think, hopefully we didn't
So
go out
buffer
of.
maps came after trail updates.
Did I jump the gun? Maybe. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just switch those those items. I don't know where my stuff went. Here it is.
So now we're going to trail updates.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah, so if you want to just swap those
did.
on the
I'll have to,
On
I'll
the
retype
timestamp.
it. Yep. Yep.
I can send you you send me your timestamp stuff, I can pass it along, or I can give you the doc, like the Word doc.
Okay, that's
not
fine.
the PDF.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so moving, I guess, backwards since we reversed these. So yeah, this is tricky too. I guess this will be real short, and we're probably going to push this out to the next meeting. So I'm sure most of you saw that Ian sent a preview link to what things looked like on uh, let's see if I can find it.
TrailForks, Trail Finder.
Yeah, the Trail Finder stuff. Finder. Maps. I know it's somewhere in here.
Lose them if you don't stay out there. You'll lose them out back. You'll lose the connection out back. Stay out.
Well, I'll save it for next time. Ian, Ian did a really nice job with a draft for getting the trails up on Trail Finder. And I guess basically the thought there is we're trying to meet users where they're looking for trails. And we talked about this in the past. Some of those locations are TrailForks, Trail Finder, and then All Trails, I think are like three of the biggest ones. And hopefully I didn't permanently mute Brad. It says ask to unmute. I don't know if I can.
He muted.
I muted because there's some background noise, but because he's on the phone, I don't know if I can force him to unmute, which makes sense. You shouldn't really be able to ask. Yeah, well. Oh.
Ask to.
I did that. So if you can hear us, Brad, sorry, there was some background noise, so I muted you. And then now it just says ask to unmute. So hopefully you're able to do that from like the dial pad controls. Otherwise, I guess you're just now a spectator. But text me, I guess, or something if you're having issues. I guess you could always drop and then just rejoin. I won't do that again. I wasn't thinking that I would not be able to, unmute you. In any case, Ian, was interested in getting stuff up on Trail Finder. And so he, basically put together a collection of trails in the Trail Finder, on the Trail Finder website. And there's like a draft version that we can review. I thought it looked great. There was a request to maybe get some more pictures attached to it so people can kind of know what they're in for. But yeah, I think we should discuss that next meeting because Ian's not here and he's got all the context for that. He had also, Ian was like eager to try to get some of these things changed on TrailForks. And then telling me like, oh, well, if we can't get this updated right now, can we ask Max Krieger from Richmond Mountain Trails to update the trails with all the things that we want. But as it turns out, what had happened was that whatever request that Richmond Mountain Trails sent to their TrailForks contact, who works for TrailForks, apparently the email ended up in his phishing or spam folder. So I emailed him with a follow-up being like, hey, can we meet? And so I still need to book a time, but basically I'm going to be able to book a time. I don't know if I can do it this week because I'm really busy, but next week probably I can book a time with him and I can have a full hour-long session with him. I suppose we could do it maybe with even multiple people if there are other interested individuals. Oh, great. Looks like Brad's not muted anymore. That's great. Oh, now he's muted again. It looks like he figured out how to do it.
Okay.
So
Thanks. Yeah, we're all set now, I think.
okay, yeah, sorry about that.
I'm muted.
Didn't
No, it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm muting.
Okay. So yeah, I guess if anyone is interested in a TrailForks crash course with somebody from outside.com, which is the company that controls TrailForks, I'm going to set that up hopefully at some point during the work week because he works normal work hours. So you have to basically book a time with him during normal business hours. So if anyone wants to jump on a call and sort of get learn the ropes on how to use the TrailForks platform as an admin, he's going to kind of get things set up. So
Do you think Julian would like to do that?
maybe. It didn't sound like many people really wanted that that responsibility.
I do not,
It
but
sounded, yeah, like it sounded like it was kind of getting delegated to me, and with
Right.
maybe Jim as a possible second because he's already familiar with it because
Right.
of the managing the Cochrane's trails. I'd be happy to have anyone else on the call, as long as we don't have a quorum, which
Right.
I don't think we're going to because there's not that much interest. But I can send out a reminder.
Mhm.
I'll put in an action item for myself. I guess I don't need to be showing my screen at the moment.
What's the name of the company that owns?
That's outside.com. But yeah, he works for TrailForks. Yeah, I'm gonna okay, so I'll send out an email to see if anyone wants to join. And no pressure. So that's the update there. So I don't think we'll need to delegate anything to Max, which was what Ian wanted to do because we hadn't heard back. But now that we've heard back, we should be good there. So there's your TrailForks access update, and also we're going to push Trail Finder to next meeting. Finder to next meeting, and then that's it for Trails updates. So with that, I guess we're just back to our normal business of revising the management plan. So I guess I prematurely stopped sharing my screen because now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so I have a few things here. So, whoops, that's the wrong agenda or the wrong document. Got any more? Oh, I must have closed it. Oops. Let's see. So I have a couple versions. So what had happened was I sent out the agenda with the packet items, and then within 12 hours, I had gotten an email from Ian with suggested edits for basically for like the rec section. And some of these were things that they're all pretty non-controversial. So I know we'd kind of been closing things down and not really trying to go back and re-litigate stuff that we had already gone through in the rec section. But because of the non-controversial nature of these comments, and he had initially, I think, submitted them a while back and they got lost. I was thinking we could just quickly go through them. I already integrated them into the document. So I have two versions of the document. If we don't want to talk about this, we can just use the version that's as a part of the packet. What I did is I just copied the exact version that's in the packet and added just a couple of things that Ian had suggested. So
in red.
in red, yep. So if we want to just quickly go through those, we can do that. It should only take a second, and then we can talk about our deviation, like buffer sizes. We can look at the diagrams and stuff that I generated, and we can hopefully move on to that and maybe even make it through recreation today. So if we're going through those, first off, he had suggested adding
Yep.
this here, which I think is fine. So promote trail connectivity to neighboring properties where ecologically appropriate. His suggestion was, and with landowner agreement.
I support that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we'll just go ahead and do that. So then, before, the way that this was set up is it basically just said, it looked like this. This one's, this wasn't bolded, but it was basically, this was the previous point. Sorry, it's so small. I always have so much trouble zooming in without losing my bar at the top, which I need to edit the document. Oh, maybe I'll do it this way. Maybe I'll do it this way. Okay, that's pretty good. So, basically, rather than just say the best practices from the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, Ian requested that we add the links in to the Vermont Town Forest Stewardship Guide in the Vermont Town Forest Trail Guide, Trail
Mhm.
Design Guide, which does appear like lower down, but I don't think it's the worst for us to have them both. So I just, yeah,
Fine with me.
added those in. Is this, Sonia, I'm gonna lean on you here. Is this proper grammar to put I'm mostly wondering about this comma or this apostrophe. The Vermont Agency of Natural Resources guides, these two guides.
It's grammatically correct, but it's distracting.
Okay, so it can be removed.
Yeah,
Okay. It is distracting.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So I was just gonna unbold it. I guess I don't know if these need to be italicized, probably not. Do we care?
Is this still 6.1?
This is, you don't, so for this stuff, you don't need to keep like a record of everything we do in this management plan.
Works for me.
Yeah, so because this stuff is all live edited and we're basically saving the document and it's gonna get included in like the next packet. It's, we're just duplicating the work and I'd rather have you be able to focus and just, I know how hard it is to type and like actually have original thoughts at the same time.
Right.
I really struggle with that. So you're off the hook. I kind of like it with the italics, so I guess I'll just leave it unless you guys.
Yep, I like it.
No, I think it's appropriate.
Okay, great. So that was that, and then this is a good.
Scroll back up, please.
Oh, sure.
Utilize best practices from the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. Guides in brown, in black. Resources.
Wait.
Yep. Space, guides.
Okay.
Small g,
Okay.
comma.
Okay.
There,
Sure.
we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. So then he had just noted that the vast trail is no longer active, so putting former vast trail is
Yep.
more accurate. So I think that's pretty non-controversial. It only appears twice in this section, so I'm just gonna update that unless there's any issue with that.
Greg?
And then next up we've got we had mentioned kiosks, but there's probably not likely to be any more than one kiosk, the one that exists like at the parking lot, and there may be signage at other entrances to the forest. So he had suggested removing the S from kiosks and just say kiosk and signage. So I think that's better.
Okay.
Is that cool with everybody?
To date, create and maintain up to date.
Yeah, I guess and up-to-date kiosk and signage.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Or yeah. Okay. So moving on. That might have been it. Oh no, there were a couple other ones. So there's this one, which was we had an asterisk here for some reason. I'm not sure why, and he just said to get rid of it. So I'm fine with that. And then I could go either way on this one. It doesn't bother me to add it, so I'm fine with adding it. But basically, we had just said closed trails within 300 feet of hemlock stands during winter months. I think it's pretty logical that that includes the hemlock stands, but Ian wanted to add inside and within 300 feet of hemlock stands.
Inside and within.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
Well, that's 300 feet of his point is we would close trails within 300 feet of the edge of a hemlock stand. But if there is a trail within the hemlock
that
stand,
it would somehow be okay.
that would be okay. So maybe there's a better way to say it, but how about within? Closed trails within,
Yeah, so within it would, so, but then it ends up being like within and within, right?
Right.
Where it's like with,
in, okay, okay, I'll go with,
Well, we could-
I support it. It's clunky, but I support
we could
it.
say within 300, within hemlock stands and
300 feet around it.
yeah, something like that.
Right,
And the surrounding 300-foot buffer.
sure.
So
Yeah.
trails within hemlock stands and the 300-foot buffer around them.
It's better. It's just better. Yeah.
Yeah. But then does this become a run-on sentence?
If you want to break it up, you can put a period after the closed parentheses and then just say this protects.
Okay,
the
yeah.
critical role.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yep.
Did he not like the word communities maybe? And he prefers a different one or a specifier like wildlife communities
Where are you seeing communities?
up where up a little bit.
Where the asterisk was?
Yeah. Protect sensitive natural communities. Did he maybe not like the word communities?
Well, what he had said was, got his notes here, I think. No, maybe this is not it. I lost it. He had a note. He basically said that the asterisk didn't seem to like belong to anything, and so that it should be removed. So that's why.
It was a stray there to begin with. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'm leaving this red because we still, I mean, we're real close. We're real close to being done with the map, but this is a reminder for us to, to do that. So I'm gonna leave that there. I don't think he had any other comments. And then we're back to trail deviation. So, yeah, this will be interesting because I feel like the biggest proponent for increasing the trail encroachment and fragmentation area was Julian, and he's not here. So I guess we're just going to work with what we have and see if we all come to a consensus on things, because I don't know, if all five of us agree, then we have a majority anyway. So I guess we can just, agree on it and then move on, and that's just the way it is. But if we can't agree, then maybe we'll have to bring it up next session. But in the meantime, I will bring up the diagrams. First, I guess, so I tried to make cleaner versions of what I've presented in the past. These ones are, not hand drawn. So they're a little bit.
More of a donut size than a cookie bite.
Yeah, I know. Now we have a donut, not a cookie. Yeah, it's the same diagram we've seen before with all this and I updated to make sure like the terminology matches what's in the language of the management plan. So, buffer width, buffer zone, here's our sensitive area. Then trail encroachment, and then fragmented area, and then here's a trail.
Right.
And then here's another, here's the other example.
Excuse me.
Here's our other example of the 5 that I created that people wanted to see make it into the final plan, which was the 2 trail example situation where you have one trail that already exists, and it passed because, the trail encroachment was fine, and maybe these numbers will have to change, which I can do if we change the language. But based on what we had currently talked about, this is just an example of one approved trail and then another proposed trail that would not be allowed because it's too, it digs too far in. And it would be fine if it were the only thing in this buffer zone, but because we already had fragmented some area of this buffer, this second trail would not be allowed, and it would need to be a shallower cut. So I don't know. That's just kind of rehashing stuff we've already
Yep.
talked about, but I wanted to include them in case. Ultimately, I'm not a graphic designer. I just use like draw.io to come up with these diagrams. So if I don't know, these are good enough for me to put in the final management plan. But if people are not
No, I think they look great.
don't like them, I think the only thing is if we change these numbers in a second, then I'll need to go back and change the numbers. But
Right.
otherwise, I'm submitting these for inclusion in the management plan as diagrams for the trail development section, or like the recreation section. So I don't know. I suppose we should, I don't know if we really need to like vote on it, but maybe we should. I would like to hear from everybody, like yay or nay, I guess. Just
Good.
I
okay.
think they look clear.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a very clear description.
I agree.
Okay, excellent. So I'll figure out a way to get that in. I don't know if it should be an appendix or do we have opinions on if we want it to be in the actual section itself or if we want it to be another appendix. That's probably not wise to do yet another
I
appendix.
think embedded is,
Okay,
Mhm.
so I'll find a way to
Yeah.
embed this into the rec section so we can talk about these things and then you see your example. Maybe this
Right.
goes like, I don't know, somewhere in the trail deviation section. Because that's what we're talking about here. So, that's that. And then here is the examples that I created. Now, disclaimer here, it is remarkably challenging to find a way to do this with absolute accuracy. I tried it a number of different ways. I tried to see if there were programs out there, although I wasn't willing to pay for a license for any software to do this. But I was trying to come up with different ways of displaying what, a certain amount of distance or area is in the context of a buffer. And I was using a circle just because you could use any shape, but you get into some pretty complicated math if you're trying to find like the exact area of some section of a weird shape.
right.
So I did my best. I'll walk you through just a few different examples of stuff that I was working on to just kind of show what various distances look like, and then we can go back to the language and we can decide, yes, this seems reasonable, or no, this seems unreasonable. So these are. Yeah, I feel like my eyes were sort of deceiving me as I was creating these because they don't look that different. So I don't know. So basically for area, here's an example of 10% of the area of this cut off. And then here's 5%, which is this one really gets me because they look too close to be.
But your walls
Yeah,
increase so.
exactly. No, it's like an optical illusion.
Right.
But yeah, this is what 10% looks like if we were going to allow 10% of a buffer to be fragmented. That's how much we would cut off if we were coming off of a side. Here is what 5% would look like. Down at the bottom here, I have a couple of examples of like doing it as just part of like a pie, which is a lot easier. So this would be one pie slice on this left section would be a 10% area cut out of a buffer. And on the right here, we have a 5% because it's 20ths. So just for reference, that's what, 10% and 5% areas look like. I had put 5% in because I thought that made sense to me. Then I think maybe Julian or someone else had said like, oh, like we should talk about that. After looking at these examples, my personal thought is 5% seems like plenty for area.
Right.
I was like pretty surprised to see just how much,
Is this particular page, are you thinking of including that in there?
no, this was just for us to discuss.
Yeah.
I don't think we
I
need
think
this.
that'll confuse.
Yes, I don't think we don't want this in the
Yeah.
management plan. I just wanted like an accurate depiction of what these various areas look like. And then for distance, I only had two examples. One is 20% and the other was 12. I don't know why I picked 12. I think it was because I was basically to, reveal behind the curtain. I was basically using a gridded system. So I was able to count the number of squares and then basically just do the math that way because it was the easiest way to come up with an accurate, accurate calculation. So that's why I ended up with 12%. I think because it ended up working out better with the grid that I was working on. But these are, yeah, two examples of what a 20% and a 12%. I guess I could have done even less than that, but like if we want to do only 5%, then imagine this one and then just cut it in half, right? So
Right.
I guess I can move my pointer here, but
Right.
there's 5%. So my take on
So
this,
Sam, could,
yeah, go ahead, Brad.
well, no, just to clarify, so in other words, say the 12%, that would be, say, a dry oak in the middle. We have 12% of 300 or 5% of 300. If it's a wet class 2, it would be 100. It would be 12% or 5% of 100 feet, right? Because that's a flat distance. We're talking distance, not area.
Yes, these are distance, and this is
Yep.
percentage of radius, not of diameter. So basically, the buffer distance is the radius from the outer edge of a sensitive area. In these, I guess you can't always use radius because the shapes are going to be different in real life. But in these examples,
Right.
we're talking radius here. So
Yeah.
that's
Edge to edge.
yeah, exactly. So that's 12% of the radius
Okay.
distance.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess I'm curious what people's thoughts are. My thought is, after looking at these like actual diagrams, my thought is for area, I don't know if I'm comfortable going above 5%.
Right.
For distance, I might be willing to go up to 20% because it seems like that's, I don't know, especially because the distance is always going to be limited by the area anyway. So I think that having them both kind of like protects I don't know, overindulging like on the distance, I guess. But yeah, I'm I'd love to hear other people's thoughts and what they think after looking at these examples, and if they think that if anyone wants to propose specific figures for area and or distance.
At the last meeting, we didn't really have consensus, but we sort of had consensus that 25% trail distance and 5% area of fragmentation.
Okay, yeah. So
That's what my minutes said.
by trail distance, we're talking about trail encroachment, right?
Oh, I probably typed it wrong.
That's fine.
Yes, no, trail encroachment, yes.
Okay.
Encroachment, yep. 25, that was what, from the last meeting.
Okay. So if we do that, you can imagine that by either, just visualize that maybe this is just a little bit further, or if you double this one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I like 20 better, but
Okay.
like I know if Julian were here, he would probably say, 40.
I know, that's why I was trying to end up
bargain a little bit.
I wish you were here, so
I do too.
we could end up at 25
Yeah.
or 20 or something.
Yeah, I guess, it's tricky because ultimately I think we do want to respect the buffers that we're creating, right?
Right.
We are trying to compromise here and make this a process that's reasonable, and we can like collaborate without immediately, shutting down possibilities of trails if they just barely dip in.
But wouldn't it be advantageous to go to the select board and the public saying the committee, all of the committee agreed to this.
That is true.
It wasn't 7-1 or whatever the number is of us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you have a great point. I mean, I know that was one of the things like when before the sort of upheaval a couple of years ago, when there was a huge changing of the guard on this committee, that not everyone had agreed on the management plan, and there was like a wish that there would be unanimity.
Right.
So I do think there's strength in us all agreeing on it. So if 5% changes that, and we all can agree that we think 25% distance is reasonable, then, I'd be willing to entertain that.
Could,
Could I speak up a little bit on that?
Yeah, go for it.
I thought of an analogy today. I mean, I know it feels comfortable when we start, you know, bargaining with raw numbers, but when we think what a buffer is supposed to be, I think it gets really dangerous. And the analogy I thought of today was a lighted match at a gas pump. All right. I don't mean to over dramatize this, but if someone says, it's safe to have an open flame within, but I don't know, I'll say 100 feet of a gas pump, for instance. And someone says, well, yeah, but what if we just, one place get within, cut that by 25%? It's just one place. Boom. I mean, it could all go up. I don't know if those are scientifically accurate, but you get the idea. We've got something in the middle that's sensitive. And by letting one thing penetrate, despite the fact we could have 1,000 acres around the rest of it, right? You can wreck the thing that you're trying to protect. So if we've been told that 300 is the bare minimum, right? We've got Naughton at 330, then Naughton at another, 500 meters or something? Beyond that, she says a secondary zone. New Hampshire at 400 feet, she's 100 meters, 330 feet. Naughton's 330 feet plus, I think 500 meters secondary zone, for God's sakes. We're not even thinking about that. New Hampshire at 400 to allow that. I forgot, Sam, you had a word, the pinprick or the needle, going in that close. If you have a trail with traffic on it, you sort of negate what you've created elsewhere, because you got animals inside there that are either feeding, that need those acorns, or the bobcats need that den. They don't care that, their backyard is completely safe. You got people intruding on the front yard way beyond the 300. We're sort of like horse trading on abstract numbers, but when you come down to the reality of it, I don't see the need. I mean, we've already given up so much that we could rightfully claim. I'm just uncomfortable with, the going deeper on the penetration because the number feels good, and I know it does, and it would be really easy to do that, and we would get that consensus, which would be wonderful. But yeah, I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable to do that because we're trying to protect that thing in the middle, and to allow, say, the switchback of a trail to whip around that or whip close to it kind of makes the rest of the buffer inconsequential.
So I guess
That
my
makes
follow-up
sense.
would be, what's your proposal? Because we have been talking about trail deviation for, I don't know, a month or something now,
Oh yeah, right.
So I'm assuming there is
No,
some value that you're comfortable with, because otherwise you probably would have voiced these concerns, a month or, 6
right.
weeks ago. Whenever we first discussed this, we probably would have been like, whoa, this is unwise.
Sure.
So I'm curious what
Sure.
you're proposing is, or your counteroffer.
I like the 5%. I think
For
the
both.
5 is. I think the 5% is reasonable. If necessary, 5%. But to start talking, give and take, whether it's 25 or 20 or 12, whatever, I think it's a dangerous thing to start giving up. I think 5 is reasonable. I like the original, but to start, compromising even more on what we've already compromised on is unnecessary, and it kind of undoes what we're trying to accomplish otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And I definitely agree with you on 5% for area. Like doing these diagrams really like nailed that down for me, and that that 5% on area is already a significant amount. And then for distance, though, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't seem like quite as.
Yeah,
You're good. You're good. Um, I think that for distance, I don't know. So right now, I guess I don't know if you can see or not, Brad, based on how you're connected, but I'm looking at the 12% distance figure that was included in the packet. And, we're more than cutting. If we're doing 5% distance, we're basically cutting this down, almost by by 2/3, somewhere between a half and 2/3, which is almost at that point, I kind of wonder, like, if we should even have a deviation process at all, because it just is so insignificant. And I also want to, I guess, bring up that I feel like any trail that ends up in the trail deviation process is by its very nature, it's going to be under a higher level of scrutiny. And we have other steps in the language that say that, we're
Mhm.
going to basically go through all these other steps to make sure that we're doing extra, we're taking extra care to ensure that
Right.
anything we do in that area is going to be under the highest level of scrutiny. So I don't know. I guess I would say I feel like unwise decisions, are going to be avoided anyway, because of the fact that this is like sort of this is the exception to the rule, and this is not meant to be, well, let's just bake another 5 or 10 or 20% into the, into, or, reduce the buffers by that. Because I don't think that
Mhm.
it should ever be the norm that people are always saying like, well, let's use the deviation process to dig in any place we can. I think that
Right.
the intention is to try to collaborate and I think this is kind of a bit of an olive branch, to try to bridge that gap between like the conservation and best practices and also the
Right.
recreators. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the
Right.
thing.
Right. Well, we would have, so if, say we go with 12, we would still be subject to the 5% total area, right?
It would.
So that, it would be that needle. And 12%, say of 300 would be 36 feet, I guess,
Yeah,
I think.
roughly. Yeah.
36 feet versus what? 550, no, wait a minute. What's 5% of 300 is, yeah, 15 feet. 15 is 36 feet, right? So what are we talking? 20? Yeah, big
20
deal.
20 feet
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, that's not scary. I don't think that's on 100 feet. So if this is a class 2 wetland, I think where we have 100 feet, we're talking 12 feet versus 5 feet. I mean, 7 feet.
Yeah.
BFD, right? So
Yeah.
that's not that. I
So
think
do
that's
you,
okay. As long as, because we will be subject to that other 5%, which is great. So you can do a really sharp entry and a sharp exit, and you
Exactly.
would be going in 12 feet or 36 feet. Yeah, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me
so
that
I have a
much.
question for the committee. Do you
Yeah.
think we could get a unanimous vote of the 5 of us, which is not a unanimous vote of the committee?
But it is
Right.
a majority. It is a majority vote, which means that it would pass.
Right. So if I proposed a motion of 5% area and 20% distance, as Sam indicated earlier, do you think the 5 of us, well, why don't I make that motion? If there's a second,
I'll second.
To propose 5% area deviation maximum.
Yeah, so let's look at let me pivot back to the document here, just so we can see, like we've seen the diagrams. I can always go back to them. Here's what we're talking about is trail encroachment and fragmentation area. So right now, let me bring up the actual. So yeah, basically the proposal would be.
you need to center it so we
Sorry.
can see it.
Sorry,
I have a question.
working with 2 screens here. Yeah, Dan, what's up?
I think the 5% area, that sounds reasonable and defensible to me. Like starting from a place of, in general, the buffers are no disturbance areas by default, but if there's going to be some trail encroachment, a limited area of up to 5% of the buffer area can be considered if there's no other feasible option. But I'm questioning the 20%. Are you saying 20% of the buffer length can have a trail in it? Because that seems like a lot.
No, the width, buffer width, I think, Dan.
Buffer
So if you
width.
have a buffer of 100 feet, you could go in 20 feet
So I
as
can
long
bring
as
the
it didn't
diagram.
exceed the 5% in area.
I see.
So it's
I
the
can bring
width
the
of the
diagram
buffer,
back up.
not the length of the trail.
All right, that makes much more, I apologize. That makes more sense to me.
Oh, no, it's hard.
It is. That's why I made these
That's a
diagrams.
good question.
Dan, can
Good
you
question.
see the screen?
Yeah,
So this is what we're talking about. This would be the absolute limit of what a deviation could be distance wise. This is not area. So basically we're saying this is the furthest you could possibly go
Towards the center.
towards the center of a buffer with a 20% distance. And then if I move over to a couple of examples, this is, sorry, this is such a pain.
are you saying that like the trail would not exceed 5% of the buffer area or penetrate more than 20% of the buffer width?
Exactly. So it cannot violate either of those, so it needs to meet both. Any trail cannot fragment more than 5% of the original buffer's area, and it also may not penetrate further than 20% of the buffer width, or the radius, which is the same as
Got it.
buffer width.
Yeah,
So that's the
that
proposal
makes sense to
here,
me.
and we can certainly discuss
I'll
further.
second.
So Wright made the motion. Sonia seconded.
So now discussion.
Now discussion of
Yeah, I guess if people have thoughts. I mean, we've discussed it a bit, but we can, technically, according to Robert's rules, you have a motion, you have a second, you have discussion, and then you have a vote. So we've already talked about this a bit. I mean, if we want to go around and everyone can talk for a minute and give their thoughts, and then we can do like a 30-second follow-up, and then just vote on it right straight up and down and see. And if it fails, then we can I don't know,
I
talk
think
about
it makes sense because it's that framework is it really I think it protects the ecological function of the buffer because it's limiting how much area is disturbed, 5%, and how far the disturbance can penetrate into the buffer, no more than 20%. And those two things together, I think, would prevent any major fragmentation of the buffer and only allow minimal unavoidable crossings.
Yeah, I agree. That's my thought, is that, between the two of these, I think it prevents any abuse here. And I'll also just point out the fact that, we have all this other language here too. So these are our two like hard limits, but everything else here, like it still requires the justification statement, why it's necessary, what alternatives were considered, the ecological impacts. And so even if a trail ends up meeting the 20% and the 5%, if that's what we choose, I think that also the committee is going to be asking the person who's proposing a trail, like, okay, well, why is this necessary? And it could be that there's a different route that is, that's better, that doesn't go in at all. And I think that hopefully this or any future committee will take those seriously and try to move the trail outside if at all possible. And so I think we've got a lot of safeguards in place here. So I'm comfortable with the 5% area and the 20% distance.
do you, Brad's muted. Do we want to call the question? Brad, do you want to say something?
I think, yeah, if anyone else,
Yeah, yeah.
should say.
I'm sorry, I forgot mute. I forgot to unmute.
You're good.
No, I kind of echo what Sam said, basically. I do worry, as I was saying earlier, about, chipping away at it. But I think that's with the other safeguards we've got, I think we'd be in really good shape with that. So I think it's great. I think it's great that Sam figured out this distance thing and it was recognized that it's more than area, that distance is important. But I like it. I would vote for it.
Sonia, do you have any thoughts? Okay.
No new thoughts.
Okay, great. Right.
Nope, I
Okay.
support it.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll put it to a vote. So the motion is to move forward with a trail encroachment limit of 20% and a fragmentation area limit of 5% for the trail deviation process. So we'll go around and state our name and our vote. Sam, aye.
Right, aye.
Sonia, I.
Brad, I.
Dan, I.
All right, great. So hopefully the other folks who aren't here tonight are cool with that, but this is it is a majority even if everyone were here. I suppose we might have had a slightly different discussion, but it is technically
Well, the vote was planned for tonight, so.
it was. Yeah, it was. So I'm just gonna go ahead and unbold these and unread them. And then I had put language, or I had just put reminders here on seeing the diagram. So ultimately, we're gonna put. Sorry, let me get back to my. Someday maybe I'll figure out how to manage two screens better. So we need to insert this. This is like the diagram that we'll be referencing. Oh shoot, am I using the right one? Okay. And I'm not sure where we should put that. Maybe just at the end of the trail deviation review process. But we have the language here that we already agreed on, and then we'll have those resources. I don't know, probably, I guess right here. Whoa. Somebody's drawn on the screen, I guess. I don't know what happened there, but that's fine. I don't know if it will go away on its own or what. But it would be right here before the potential recreation partnerships. So,
So the 5% still has a color to it. Maybe it's,
does it?
nope, it's gone.
So
Sorry.
just the diagram. I don't know if we want to just say C diagram for both of these, or
Is it going to go right above require a justification statement?
well, we could put it there. Sure. Yeah, we could just put it right after. Oh my goodness. Brad's going crazy. Pretty sure that's Brad. Either that or it could go right here. But yeah, maybe it does make more sense to put it just right.
You want to get out of this and get back in
What's that?
to get rid of so you're not continuing to.
I don't know. I don't know if I can erase.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Eraser. Oh no, I can't.
Way to go, Brad.
Am I still muted? Hey, what am I doing something?
It seemed like you had maybe I don't know if this is possible. I saw your name pop up, and it looked like somebody is drawing on the screen. I suppose I can just stop the share. And
No,
restart.
not me. I don't know. I'm not doing anything. Scratching my chin.
I didn't do it.
Okay, well, maybe it was me. I'm clearly not capable at managing multiple computers at the same time. So,
I'm too.
so how about I think here is a fine place just to insert the diagrams.
Right.
I'll do that on my own time. You don't need to watch me do that because it's going to take way too long probably. And then, yeah, I don't know if we need, I don't know if we need C diagram at all. Do we need that if we're going to have the diagrams right after these two?
I say keep it.
I do too. It doesn't hurt.
Okay, sure. Cool. So that will go there, and then we'll go here. Great. Oops. And then I think I don't remember. Do you guys remember if we talked about the stuff beyond this? Because I know we got really hung up on this stuff. So I'm not sure, just because there wasn't red below it doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't talk
Well,
about it. So
I just saw Meredith Naughton and Julian had those 5 sections from her that we included. Is that right here or was that earlier?
oh, that's true. No, this was
And
Julian's
I
link.
think we added,
Yep. That's correct. So this was from Julian.
Okay, all right.
And it's got the you know,
Yep,
the
okay,
citation and
good.
everything. So
All right.
but we did talk about adding, because those weren't, oh boy, I'm going back in memory. There were some other things she said. And I think we discounted a couple of them as not relevant, but there's one other addition, darn it. I don't remember what it was to those things.
So beyond
Damn.
trail consolidation, trail use volume, recreation activity type, species management, species specific management impacts, education, seasonal closures, and trail construction impacts and timing, there was more.
Yeah, there might have been oh yeah, like maybe one or two that we thought were valid for what we're trying to do. She had a couple others that just,
I thought we
I
went
could
through
go
them
back
all,
and dig
but
around.
yeah, if you want to do that, Brad, and then, I think we will do like one quick, hopefully it'll only take us like, 5 or 10 minutes next meeting where we have everyone
Right.
here. We can basically say like, hey, we're done. Like we're closing this chapter and we're moving past
Yeah,
recreation. And if you have a couple of things we want to tack onto that list, we can probably add them at the next meeting. So,
sure.
if you
No,
want
I don't think there was any disagreement over we talked about them and threw a couple out as being, nah, we don't need that. But there was
yeah,
like one or maybe one more. Anyway, I'll check on that.
gotcha. Cool. Thank you. And then I don't know why those were bolded. I think our style guide, we were not using periods on bullet. I'm just going to remove those periods. But I feel like we talked about some of this because we talked about like, I think we had agreed on qualified ecologist.
I agree.
Should I put like an et cetera here? Just so we're not only saying those three.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, the ACF committee votes to approve with conditions, request modifications, or reject the proposed deviation. If approved, include monitoring requirements and set a review window to reassess impact. Do we want to keep that? Like this part makes sense to me. But then if approved, include monitoring requirements and set a review window to reassess impact. That seems like a really loaded sentence. Like there's a lot that could go into that. Do we need to spell it out more? Are we going to require monitoring requirements and a review window to reassess that's beyond what we would normally do for any other trail? Like, I don't know. I think the plan is hopefully after we do the management plan that we're going to talk about wildlife in like human traffic, human monitoring in the forest. So hopefully not human
Deep
traffic.
dark forest,
Yeah, right.
deep dark,
Um,
dark forest.
We always have
Uh,
the ability to monitor.
yes. So I don't think we need this last sentence.
I agree.
I think it's redundant, and I think that if there are concerns, the committee will decide in that moment, hey, we want to reassess this in
Right.
X amount of time. In the meantime, if we're going to set up some kind of monitoring plan, we'll be able to do that. So my vote is to just get rid of this.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I come in and I want to create a trail that has an impact in a buffer,
Okay.
and we go through the whole process and the committee approves it.
Okay.
Is that the final decision maker, or with this new trail, do we have to go to the select board for a new trail, or is this within our decision making?
That is something we might need to clarify with the select board, because what I do know, what I do know is that if we're making changes to the management plan, yes, like we need to get this approved by the select board, and VLT needs to sign off on it as well, right? As like the
Right.
stakeholder. As far as trail development goes, like, I don't know, I remember the walk with Rebecca Roman, and she was like pretty lax about some stuff where she's just like, oh, like, well, if it's not in the, if it's not in the easement, then like you're free to do X,
Right.
Y, and Z. And I was actually kind of surprised at how many things we were able to do
Right.
without having to ask them.
Yep.
But there are certain things we absolutely do need to ask, for approval for. So I don't think we need to go to VLT whenever we put a trail in.
Right.
So it may be that we also don't necessarily even need to go to the select board. Select board might want, I don't know. It might be a question that we need to ask or Josh, or I mean, it might actually be in the management plan itself. I'm not sure where that would be, but it's a great question.
Well, if we need resources, we're going to need the select board. You know what I mean? If we need money to build a boardwalk, we're going to have to go to the select board.
But that could be, that could be a like conservation reserve fund application, which might be separate, like where like the funding is then the trail approval. And like what happens if, what happens if Wright joins Richmond Mountain Trails and he organizes, a work party, and it's like, hey, here's the trail. And it's like, I've got all of the materials and the man hours all lined up to put this in. It's not going to cost the town a cent.
Right.
And then the question would be, well, does this body approve that? And then we just keep moving forward, or,
So maybe make a note here that we need to ask,
okay,
what's our authority to approve trails?
Well, the other question is, we've talked about zoning before, and it's
right.
Like, just because a trail's going in doesn't mean you can just do it, right?
Right.
We get in trouble on like zoning reasons. So there are, I mean, if we go back to, I mean, that would belong in the trail approval process, right?
Right.
So maybe that's something that we need to clarify and put in here. So we've got, document the need. I'm not going to read all these things, but I'll read the headings. Then we've got the preliminary review. We've got the expert review, flagging, and final map. The committee reviews, and we've got public input.
Oh, there it is right there. Oh, okay.
So
maybe there's another bullet below committee review and public input.
Yeah.
Keep going down. Maybe it's right below there.
Below like approval and permitting.
Oh, it says select board. All right.
Yeah.
We've already covered it, I guess. I'm sorry.
So it's not like trails are going to go in that often.
Right.
I think that the select board would like to be included on this.
Okay.
Like, guess I'd be fine either way, but like, I don't know. So the select board has a lot more visibility in the town than individual committees. So there have been situations like with RCC, say, where RCC had a meeting, talked about something, nobody attended except for the members of RCC, and then that item hits the select board's docket, and then suddenly there's a bunch of public feedback, because a lot of stuff all just kind of like filters to the select board, and that's really the space that a lot of people in town are watching.
Right.
And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to discussing the possibility of ACFC being able to be sort of like the sole approver, but I think it's also kind of a nice check. Because
Yeah,
I think about like
yeah.
conservation reserve funds or like funds in the town that get spent, at least for conservation reserve funds, I believe it's like if it's over $10,000, it's got to get put to the voters. You know, there are certain thresholds where
If
it's like
it's,
under $500, Josh can do it. If it's more than 500 but less than 10,000, then it goes to the select board. And then if it's above 10,000, then it actually has to be voted on by the town. And so for something like a trail in the town forest,
that's,
go ahead.
but just to clarify, Sam, I agree totally with what you're going with, but the thing on the CRF is it's only when the town is acquiring property
Oh,
over
got it.
10,000, I think. Yeah,
Thank you for
but
the
other
clarification.
kinds of grants, they don't have to go to the voters. But anyway,
Okay.
but I agree what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, that's a good clarification, and I should know that, being on our RCC, no less the chair, but,
I think
forget
the select board should definitely be involved. I mean, putting in a
Great.
new trail it's a big deal. A trail is like a permanent infrastructure
Yep.
that
Yep.
has
Yeah.
immediate
On
impact.
property.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we're advisory. We're not we don't have a checkbook to do stuff. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot that was in there.
No, it's fine. I mean, there's so much in
No,
this
good
management,
question.
easy to forget. Okay, so if we go back down, we're gonna insert our diagram. We have this that we agreed on. So yeah, I guess sorry, Sonia.
Yes,
Yeah.
that you went back exactly.
Yeah, I
what
was gonna remove this because
The
we don't
AF,
need this, right?
yes, and then the ACF committee will vote
Okay, yes.
to
I like
approve
that.
or reject the
Will
proposed.
vote to approve, approve
Or reject.
or
Deny? Reject, deny?
Or
Okay.
deny. Either one, yeah,
uh
comma, the proposed deviation. Comma, or request, well, whatever you just deleted.
like the
Request modifications
all right, so the ACF committee will vote to approve.
or deny the proposed
Does the
deviation,
comma need to be here? Approve,
No.
comma. Okay, approve or deny the proposed deviation.
period.
Request, yeah. Modifications, or what was, there's one more. Oh, with conditions, no. Like that?
Yes, yeah, that's good.
Cool. I dig it. Does anyone else have thoughts or,
Or
No,
request modifications and resubmission.
in resubmission?
Of the proposal.
Good.
Great. Cool. Well, we are, yeah, at the very end here. So the last thing was, yeah, we had a few comments here. I forgot the coloring, but I have the legend here at the bottom. So, Brad was red. He had asked that we just alphabetize the list.
Which you did.
I guess that was, I did do that already. Apparently my comment was to list in order of importance, which I don't like as much, so I'll toss that one out. And then, right, you had suggested combining a couple of bullets into one, ACF neighbors, including BYCC and Maple Wind Farm. And then Brad, I think, had added a couple of additional items to the list, the Audubon Vermont and then UVM Field Naturalist Program. So I like the alphabetization. I think that's good, just because it's easy for people to read A to Z and it doesn't prioritize anyone over anyone else. So I think that's pretty non-controversial. I like the additions that Brad added here. I don't see any reason not to include them. And then I'm also cool with yours, right? With combining our neighbors into one.
Okay,
So we can do that. So we could just say like neighboring properties, VYCC and Maple Wind Farm.
sure. Yep.
Um,
So that becomes an N, right? Yep. Yep.
Maureen.
Landowners?
Yeah, landowners. That's one word, right?
Yep.
And then we can get rid of that. Or should it be,
I think include, well,
yeah, like, is this better? Because I'm
We'll
also
do the
thinking,
et cetera.
what
yeah,
about,
with et cetera.
Yeah,
okay,
just comma, et cetera, comma VYCC, comma, et cetera.
Yep.
okay, I like that.
Yep.
And then BYCC doesn't need to be down here now. And then finally figured out how to do this properly. I'm assuming nobody has any issues with Brad's suggestions of adding the UVM Field Naturalist
No.
program and the Audubon Vermont.
Do we need to list Vermont Land Trust again or not?
Probably. Oh, I don't know.
That wouldn't hurt, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
I think we're gonna get rid of that. Oh, the green was Ian, so he likes his titles and like the numbering system, which I still can't seem to figure out how to get that to work with the table of contents. So he'll have to show me how to do that. But yeah, there's our list of partnerships. I'm gonna get rid of this legend because we don't need it anymore. And is the spacing fine? I feel like it's a little bit close. I'll add one more. But sorry, everything's so delayed.
Okay, I've got one, certainly in Richmond, is the seniors community. Is that on
That's
there?
there, I think, right?
Senior center,
Yeah.
is that like actually what it's called? I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, there it is.
Community
I
senior.
I was looking in S. Good. I'm glad it's there. Yep. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I guess the other thing is, do these all need to be like county forester? Does forester need to be? I guess does that need to be capitalized? These are all.
I
Some of
think
these are
so. That's a title.
It is, so it is.
Yeah, I think it's a title, so, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Look good.
Does anyone else have comments on
Wow.
this list?
That's good.
All right. Well, yeah, it seems like we've reached the end of the rec section, which I never thought would come. And we got a couple small things. We're gonna have to revisit the mapping briefly next meeting.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. I mean, we have the feedback, and so maybe, depending on the timing, I don't think that any of the feedback is controversial. So who knows? Maybe we'll even have a John Haddon map by next meeting. I'm not going to hold anyone to that, but we've got that, and then I'll insert the diagrams, and then we're basically good on this. We can have like one quick little wrap up, just with more people here, or we can just move on. Like we have a quorum and everybody agreed on the stuff here, so it might
Right.
be in our interest to
Right.
just keep chugging
Right.
along.
To the appendices.
To the appendices. So, well, I don't know if we should do that today. I mean, it usually takes us a couple minutes to close. We got technically 20 minutes to go. I don't know if we really want to dive into the appendices. We could take a brief look, but I don't know how much we're going to really cover. I guess we can just kind of get our bearings so we sort of know what we're getting into next time. It's been on the agenda so long that I must admit that I haven't really been revisiting this stuff because I've lost faith that we were actually going to make it through recreation. And so, because every time we thought we were going to make it through and then we wouldn't, and it's happened for literally, it's probably been the better part of 6 months that we've been stuck in recreation. So this is actually
Well,
pretty. monumental achievement
Thank
that
you.
we finally made it. So yeah, let me go to the agenda and just see. So yeah, what we've basically been discussing is the fact that we have a recreation appendix and an ecology appendix, and then Brad had come up with a combined version, which was a way for us to basically combine the two and try to bridge that difficult gap between recreation and conservation, or ecology, that has been a real challenge, which we kind of have done, in the rec section. I know that some people had some issues, but we got some feedback both back when Chase was on the committee, and then also when we had that meeting where we had a lot of public feedback, mostly from the biking community back in, I want to say it was August. I think there was a lot of feedback saying that like this recreation section reads a lot like an ecology section. I think that's a good thing. I think that it kind of bridges the gap between the two. So my gut feeling is that a combined appendix for ecology and recreation is better, but I'm curious what people's thoughts are, and I will admit that I need to go through and like reread all this stuff. But I figured since we have a few minutes, it's worth kind of just chatting, getting people's thoughts. Like, does anyone have any strong feelings?
They have to be assimilated at some point, and that's as good a place to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, and so like, let's just see. And they're roughly
Yeah, I
the
think
kind of
without
text
it,
that like recreation was 7 pages and ecology was 9 pages, and the combined is 15. And I know we had some overlap. So that also kind of, Julian's always harping on brevity, which he's right to do so, like why, we shouldn't be repeating ourselves or saying more than we have to. So that's another good reason to combine them, because there's definitely some overlapping principles in both of the appendices.
Mhm.
and if you keep, recreation, or for that matter, any of the other non-ecological sections totally free of ecological um, justifications or rationales, I don't know, they become very stark and very arbitrary, you know,
Mhm.
to say, we're going to keep a buffer 300 feet around, this particular thing, and with no reason, no logic to it. You kind of got to tell people that, because you can't count on them to say, oh, okay, well, I'll flip back to the ecological section to see why they do that. I mean, why not just keep it all together so people understand? So
Yeah,
I think
I
that
agree.
was, I don't know, might have been Jimmy's suggestion that we consolidate way back when, and I said I'd take a crack at it. So I kind of like it, but I could live with the other. But I think we would have to have some ecological justification in rec, and not just pare down recreation to be, I don't know, whatever we would have in the appendix. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Yeah, and I think yeah, that's a great argument for combining them, because that was sort of part of
Yeah,
the issue that we were running into, was that there were concerns about, well, why are we referencing ecology in the rec section? Like, why are we referencing recreation in the ecology section? And so combining it, that kind of explains it. Like, we are either, we know how closely knit those are, and how you can't really have one
yeah,
with the other in a forest like this, where the charge is to have recreation and conservation. So yeah, I'm
yep,
all for it. I'll have to go back through all three documents and make sure that there aren't any like glaring omissions or like duplications. And so I would
right.
say that for next meeting, we should we should cover this. And people should do their homework, and basically I'll send out a reminder with dates. Uh, but I think we should look at those sections, and people should have their comments. Um, and and then we can quickly go through things like we have in other meetings where we're basically just looking at the red, the
Yep.
red text, rather than go through it line by line together. Send out reminder for so I guess with that, I don't know, we can just move towards closure. I mean, we can talk about maybe we talk for a few minutes about what we want to cover in our next meeting. I mean, I know that I've kind of been setting the agenda. I mean, it's been pretty simple because we've mostly been doing rec, with a few other things sprinkled in. So normally, like, I'll come up with the agenda and then I'll, hit up Brad and see what his comments are, and we tweak it a little bit, and then, I get it to Duncan, in time for the meeting to be warned. So I don't know. I'm happy to continue doing that, but I also don't want to feel like I'm the one that's like driving everything here. So I think that some of the main things that we need to talk about, like we really need to get this thing done. And this was like
Right.
the last like really hard piece, but the things that come to mind that we still need to look at before this gets shipped out to RTC, RCC, and like the select board gets their, preview, is education, the education section, and then basically just like compiling the entire thing as a whole. Because we've been working on these different pieces, and some of them we haven't looked at for, months. I want to be really careful that we don't get back into edit mode on some of the stuff that in the past we said like, oh, we're good. And then we've given it a year and then suddenly we want to make more changes. We just gotta at some point call it good.
Right.
But if there are any like things that are horribly inaccurate, then we should correct those. But what I'll need to do, and maybe I can work with Brad and or Ian on this, is try to find all those like most recent pieces of each section, and then to bring it all together into like one document that we can, look at one last time. I don't think, because next meeting I think we'll want to do the combined, or separate eco and rec appendices, and then education. That's probably enough content for a meeting, especially considering we're going to talk a little bit more about mapping and a little bit more about the trail updates because we didn't have Ian today.
Right.
So I think we're good for next meeting, but 2 meetings from now, I think we're going to want to basically be all looking through the entire management plan on our own. That will have by then hopefully been assembled by me or Ian or Brad or someone who's gotten all the pieces together, and then that's. I don't know. I guess like potentially I would love to set a deadline of about a month from today that we're saying, unless there's some horrible things that need to be changed, like
Right.
I would say in a month, it would be great to be, closing things or like wrapping things up on the management plan and sending it out.
Wow.
So you said,
That's
education,
great.
compilation of the entire thing, a bit more about mapping and trail updates. What about the appendices?
Yeah, so next meeting, appendices. Well, so we'll do, I mean, not necessarily in this order, but next meeting we'll do the mapping revisited. We'll do the trail updates, for Trail Finder, and then I'll have an update on TrailForks. And then we'll do appendices, and then we'll do education. And then hopefully we can do all that in one meeting. And assuming it doesn't take us forever to do that stuff and it doesn't bleed over into the next meeting, then hopefully the meeting after next will be taking one last look at the entire compiled management plan and then basically putting our stamp of approval on it and saying we're good with this. And it's like that still does beg the question about the copy editor. We haven't really like figured that out. I don't think that any RFP ever went out for, trying to get a copy editor. What I can say, and I've said this before in a prior meeting, is that my general understanding is that unless we can find somebody who's gonna, do these edits for a few $100, like it's it's not a popular, it doesn't seem like a popular topic with either the Richmond voters or the select board that we spend thousands of dollars on a copy editor, especially considering how much time we've already spent on the management plan.
Right.
So we'll have to figure that out too. So I guess maybe if, 2 meetings from now, we're gonna look at the whole thing, decide where we're at, and then we're also, I don't know, we might end up having a situation where we just ship it as is, or somebody, or a few people like have like a subcommittee and we just do some real heads down, go through, page by page and try to get all the stuff, I don't know, transcribed or, reformatted or whatever we need to do to basically do that final polish ourselves. And that's a small amount of work, but at least at that point, hopefully we're just kind of doing formatting and like, spelling and grammar and nothing like huge that we're changing the actual content of the management plan.
Right.
But that's my sort of vision of what the next month or maybe two looks like. But I would love to see us be done with this management plan in, a couple months time at the most. When we blew way past the initial summer deadline last summer, which then turned into end of summer. And then, the select board has been very patient and has not been asking us for updates. But yeah, I think we really need to wrap it up.
Yep,
But we're
close.
pretty much there now.
Yep.
The rec section was the hardest
Yeah,
sections.
it was. Well, I think we did great.
I'm really happy with it. I think it's looking really good, and yeah, I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I think we've collaborated really well. We've been extremely thoughtful. We've gotten extremely granular with a lot of the stuff, but I think that's what was necessary for us to really figure out what makes the most sense for the forest. And hopefully, both the committees we ship this off to, the public is going to agree that, we've really done our homework and that it's well reviewed, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
All right.
And
yeah.
I think we're going to end up with just a heck of a model for other towns, to tell you the truth. It really is an ecological approach to this.
I agree. I think one thing that I was thinking about earlier today was that if this serves as a model for other forests, they are going to have to figure out their own sensitive areas. Of course, they're going to need to like map and delineate them, but also they're going to have to come up with. We have our dry oak and our red pine and our vernal pools, and other forests are going to have completely different things. So they all might be able to lift some of this stuff, but they're going to have to come up with their own buffers. But it's at least a really nice town. Maybe some of them choose a 400-foot distance, or maybe some of them choose 200 feet. And but yeah,
we got to get it approved.
Yes, well, that's true. Yeah, we shouldn't count our chickens just yet. I am going to put one
That's true.
here about the I'm going to add the reserve zone stuff, because we did talk about adding that language here, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I made a note on that. I can try to come up with. I mean, it's like a sentence or two, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple.
Yeah, so we will be very briefly revisiting this next time for reserve zone language, the diagrams that get inserted, and then the map stuff. But then aside from that, we're pretty much done. But with that,
When are we meeting?
I think next meeting is our actual on the books. That's not the movable one. The 26th. Technically, we meet the fourth Monday of the month, so we are due for a meeting in 2 weeks.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. I know some people are getting tired of meeting twice a month for 2.5 hours each time. I would love to see us continue this cadence until the management plan is done.
Yep.
And then once we've finished it, then I think we can go back to our once a month for 2 hours. And we'll all have earned, I think have earned that. So yes, I would like to have us meet from 6 to 8:30 on the 26th.
Yep.
Can we project beyond that, or is that just the distance?
Oh, just for dates?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, if we're keeping our cadence, it would be February 9th and then February 23rd.
I think it says 6 to 8 on the town website, so we may want to.
Oh, does it?
Fix that.
Good point.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, the one for today says 6 to 8:30. Yeah, I don't know if it always looks that way. It might change when I send the stuff to Duncan. I can ask him about that, but what he might do is update it once he sees the agenda, and with the agenda says 6 to 8:30, then he changes it from, 6 to 8:30
Yeah.
on his end. I mean, I'm fine with leaving it as is right now, because ultimately the plan is for us to go back to just 6 to 8 once a month,
Right.
once we finish the management plan revisions. So I think it's fine, as long as the date's on there.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
I'll second.
Too late.
I should have second as a co-chair, I think.
Well, I seconded as a co-chair, so it's.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I think it's fine. I don't think it really matters for closing out a meeting. But yeah, all in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
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 All right, meeting adjourned. See you guys in 2 weeks.
It was exactly 2
Great.
hours.
Thanks, everyone.
Good
Perfect.
night.
Good night.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. It was great. We loved it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.